Welcome everyone once again to the Faith Perspective, and this is a podcast that wants to help people see life through the Christian worldview. And as I mentioned in my previous video, I'm on a hunt to get insights and wisdom from people that have been in the ministry for a long time, and people whose wisdom I think will transcend their generation and even ours, because they've made so much success in ministry that sometimes we overlook. And today I have Dr. Zulu, Reverend Dr. Zulu. He's the pastor of International Baptist Church, but he's also the executive secretary of the Baptist Fellowship of Zambia. And so I will be talking to him, and I pray that you'll be blessed even as we have this conversation. So welcome, Dr. Zulu.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm delighted to be here today.
I'm more even more delighted, I think, because I've been wanting to have this conversation for a long time, and that it has finally come. It's such a humbling experience because you are very busy, and I think most people who know you know that you're always on the move, you're always taking care of business and all that. But sparing this time with me is an honor, and it's such a humbling experience. I'm grateful for that. So I've been wanting to have conversations on ministry.
My delight. I'm very, very happy.
Yeah. So how did you find yourself where you are? Like, how did you find yourself into the ministry in the first place?
Growing up, ministry was not my option. I didn't think I would go into full-time Christian ministry because when I became a Christian in 1975,
I wasn't born by then. Yeah.
I was still in secondary school when that happened, but it was my whole life-changing experience, and then I immediately got immersed in the local Baptist church which I joined, which was very close to my parents' home. And I think that was my introduction to Baptist life.
Yeah.
There weren't many Baptist ministers then, not many pastors I can remember. The church I joined didn't have a pastor, so there would be circuit pastors. Like in Kitwe, there were maybe 3 pastors, and they were the ones who would do baptisms,
yes.
They would do Lord's Supper, they would do those special things that ordinary members cannot do.
Yeah.
Yes. However, the big challenge at that time was the local churches being able to respond to the needs of those that they called the pastors, and the support that was being given and the help. Now, as a young person, I would consider that, and I never thought this is the kind of life I need. However, my commitment was I need to work and be able to support these who are doing full-time Christian ministry and make life better for them. So that was where I was coming from.
Yeah.
And to an extent, in my first years of working, I kind of did commit myself into doing that. And my wife and I were able to really, through our local church and on an individual basis, do our ministry of reaching out.
Okay.
So I worked for Zambia Railways for a good 15 years. And while I was doing that, I went through from the time I became a Christian, around somewhere about 1977, 1978, I seriously got into the process of being discipled. Yeah. Even though I had become a Christian earlier, but I never seriously got discipled. Yeah. But as I went through the process of being discipled and being helped to grow in my Christian life, I also got involved practically, because my discipler would lead me into reaching out, sharing my testimony, and we would do that from a local perspective. And then I became involved in my local church youth ministry, and we used to do that. Then I also got involved in the associational ministry, and that kind of began to open my life to the different things that were happening. Up until then and going forward, I still didn't see myself as an answer. So my prayer was always, Lord, call men, women, who will be able, who will be supported to go to those places.
Yeah.
And I wasn't me. It wasn't me. Yeah. It was other people that God needs to call. So I went right Sirenje into Northern Province, Luapula Province, the Copper Belt, much of the Copper Belt, Northwestern Province into Solwezi. So I can say that work in the youth ministry really exposed me to Zambia, to the needs of churches, to lostness. And I saw lostness from various angles. Not only did I see that, but I also began to get aware of the lack of men, just like I was praying for God to call, but I began to know more and more about the need for men who would respond, men who would sacrifice and be willing to put their lives in the hands of the Lord, that God could do with them as He wished. So I didn't give up my position, but my conviction began to get stronger and stronger, because in my praying, God began to impress me that you're thinking about all these. What about you? Where do you see yourself? Yeah, because it could just be you. Why are you not willing to go? Why do you want other people? So with that shift in the work that the Holy Spirit was doing in my life, resistance set in. And I had every reason why it should not be me. And the more I thought about it being other people, the more the Lord impressed on me. The more I thought about having to shift over and living the life that I had never envisaged that I would one day be serving or working in the church or anything like that, the more conviction I got, and the more I resisted leaving my full-time job, because I didn't see it that way. I didn't see it that way. I think it took a while before I ran out of options and excuses.
I remember you took me in a course. I don't know if you remember that, way back in 2014, Experiencing God. That was Henry Blackaby. One of the things that he says in that book is that when God calls you to join him where he's at work, there's usually a crisis of belief in you. It's as if your own doubts, your own questions and everything else, your own excuses clash with the call that God places upon you, and then you ask yourself to go or not to go.
Yes. So the biggest challenge was also my wife and I, we talked about it, and the biggest challenge was we were helping several family members go through school, and we were also helping our parents, both the two of us, our mothers. So we felt like giving up would mean that our parents would suffer, and we would also create a crisis to those who were taken care of. But the Lord, I think, in His grace, did put it across that He was able. And we should not see it as us being the ones, but God was just using us to take care of them. And even the jobs we had, the job I had, He gave me. So if He wanted, He could take it away. But we could still survive. So the full extent that this went was that, you know, if God took away my life, would they survive? Yes, they would. There would still be life for them.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any more excuses. And in order to do a good, appreciable work, my wife and I considered, and we said we are willing.
Yeah.
Of course, I had not given up. I was still thinking, I must go to Kitwe. I must go back to Kitwe because this is where we grew up. And we kind of bargained with the Lord. Lord, if you want us or me to save you, I'm willing to stop, and I'm willing to go to seminary and pick my skills, but bring me back here.
Yeah.
Because that's the place I loved, and I wanted to be.
But it seems to me that God always has other plans.
Oh, sure, sure. Lusaka was the last place where I thought I would spend my half of my life. I never, ever dreamt of leaving Kitwe. It was just a transition.
Yeah.
Go, learn, and come back.
Yeah.
And for a little while, it seemed like it was going to work. Because there was a congregation that had just started, and we began conversations early in my seminary life, and they were saying, you know, we want you to come back and be our pastor. And I just said, praise the Lord. This is exactly what we had been praying, and I saw the faithfulness of God in that sense.
Yeah.
God had other plans. While we were in seminary, I responded to International Baptist Church call to be an associate pastor.
Yeah.
And I told them, I'm willing to be your associate pastor for the duration of my seminary. When seminary is done, I'm gone.
Ways.
I'm gone.
I'm going back.
Yes, I'm going back. I will go back to Kitwe.
You're going back to Kitwe.
Yes. And that is where God called me from. That is where I saw the needs. That's where I felt I would be able to make a contribution among my peers, my friends, family. I felt comfortable. I would not be lost. It would just be like an interruption. I went, I came back. That was the way I looked at it.
Yeah.
And my wife and I were comfortable with that arrangement. Yeah. But as we went, my pastor asked the leaders, have you asked Pastor Zulu if he is going to stay? Or if he can consider to be here when he's done with seminary?
Yeah.
So they said no, but he told us that he would be going.
Yeah.
Then he said, but you can still ask him. You can still ask him. So I basically told them, okay, let me pray about it. I did not completely wipe out that. I said, let me pray about it.
Yeah.
But at the back of my mind, I had this lingering thing that, why are they asking me this? Then I began to resist from within that I don't want to be here. I want to go. Now this is like a distraction of the plans that are already in place.
Yeah.
It's already said.
But
now,
those were your plans.
those were mine, yes.
Not God's plans.
Yes, but they seemed like they are in place and everything seems to be working out. So I didn't like it.
It's not always pleasant when God...
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Until, in actual fact, the people there in Kitwe, the church had already started to grow, and they told me we are going to write an official letter. And they were not writing. And anytime we meet or we talk, oh, we are still in the process of doing this.
That's the people from the Copper Belt.
From the Copper Belt.
So you had betted on that?
Yes.
And you're refusing here while the people here are advancing.
Yes, these are saying, we want you to come. And whenever we have a meeting, they would say, where are you now? I'm still, I don't have a leading.
Yeah.
So now I am beginning to be under conviction.
That God wants you to be here.
Because I don't have reasons why I should not stay here And I had been serving as an associate, and I had already got involved in the youth ministry heavily. I had seen the needs, and God had placed major burdens upon me here in Lusaka. So I one day told my wife, unless we have a good reason to go back,
you're staying now.
We are going to stay.
Yeah.
And
so would you say at this moment that God was orchestrating things behind the scenes?
Oh, yes.
To make it in such a way that even if you're looking forward to going the other way, their delay was his voice to you saying, you have to remain.
Yes, that's the way I saw it. Because the day on a Sunday, we told them, oh, I think we are going to stay. And we acknowledge, we accept your call. Man, there was celebration here. They were happy that we were going to stay. That very day, the church there in Kitwe had also sat, and they said, let's go and let's now tell him that the letter is coming and everything has worked. The same day, same day. I have never seen that kind of thing. And literally after church, my wife and I were sitting outside, and we saw Reverend Franklin Kilpatrick coming across. And I said to her, you know, that guy has a message for us, and I believe it's from Kitwe. And when he came, he said, hey, Zulu, and Zako akufuna, pa phone, because there were no phones there.
Yes.
Yes, so I told her, I told you.
Yeah.
So I responded to the call, oh, we would like for you to know. So I just said, you know, I need to come over. I must come over and talk to you people. I will not respond over the phone. So that very week, Friday, I went to Kitwe and told them I had acknowledged I was not going to come. Yeah, so that was also a very sad trip. But I'll tell you, both my wife and I wept that day. Wept not because we had missed an opportunity, but we wept because we suddenly saw the working of God against ours, and that God is greater, and that we must be willing to be obedient where he sends us. It was at that point, which was a turning point, that we will be willing to go anywhere where he sends us. As long as we are in his will, we will be okay.
Yeah, that's a profound one, because I think that one of the things that troubles young ministers like us today is also, I think it's one of the things, there are many things, but one of the things is a spouse who is unwilling to follow you and make necessary sacrifices, even when you hear that this is where God is leading you. And then you have all those problems where you feel like God is leading you this way, and then your spouse says, no, it can't be. It can't be. And sometimes it's family. I remember myself when I came here, you know, you've explained about those issues where, you know, you're taking care of people, you're looking after people, and then you feel like if you go this way, you'll be sacrificing a lot, including their welfare.
Yes.
And so you begin to struggle, and I think you remember the several times that I came back to the office and I said, no, I'm leaving this place.
I remember you. I know.
I'm leaving this place. Yeah, because the crisis, I think, doesn't occur only once when you're just hearing the call of God. I think even along the way, there are several crises.
It's constant.
Happen.
It's constant.
And you constantly need to sacrifice even in those. So how long have you been in ministry, though?
You know, I accepted the call to international in about 16th of, which was my birthday, really. 16th of October of 1992.
1992, that's 83 years ago.
Yes, that's when I went into ministry as a called person.
33 years?
Yes.
Yeah. That's my youngest sister is 33. I'm sure she was just born by then. But then that's a long time to be in ministry. A very long time, I would say. Like I said earlier on when we were just talking before the recording kicked in, I was saying that one of the things that we see now is people not staying in ministry for that long, much more moving from one church to another. Of course, the other dynamics, especially in our Baptist denomination, where the church would just arise and say, well, we don't want you now. You can, but you've stayed at the same church for
Yes.
33 years.
Yes. So I started 1992. My pastor was retiring in somewhere about 1996, 97. However, some developments happened at International. We had started the Rio International in around Kabwata. That's where we were meeting.
Yeah.
And we were building in Olympia.
Yeah, the same area.
The same area where our church is right now. So then the city was not as developed as it is today. The people didn't have cars and there wasn't as much movement as there is today. If that was the case, the whole congregation would have shifted. Yeah. But at that time, the people felt bus into town. And then to that other end, it would be very difficult. So it was decided, let's begin another church in the Kabwata area and let International go and start. So we said, who is willing to go with International? And at that time, we're only 2 couples and another family who were willing. But this other family soon left because they shifted over to south of Chilenge, and so they left. So really I went with one family and basically 2 families, including us, we were 3 families. But one of the things that happened in those early years was that then we decided to change. The new church took a new name, Central Baptist Church, and they also selected their pastor. Dr. Msonda became the pastor of Central Baptist Church, and for a little while, Reverend Barber stayed with Central to help there and do that. Then I started work in the Olympia area, and with the help that Central was giving, they would come and together we would do visitation, we would reach out into the community. So they were also determined to not just let us go, but we worked together with them and then began to see that work beginning. We began to work with children in the community. We began to reach out to individuals in the Olympia, North Mid, proximity and visiting on a very, very regular basis. We also went into Luangwa Township and began to lay a base. I should be able to confess that it was not easy. Those first few years were not easy. But when we started, we did not completely split. You know, we said, okay, let's do like the finances. Let's maintain stability. Let's keep the finances as one. I think 2 years along the line, over there where we were as International, we felt we would never grow. And we would never be able to see God growing us. Let's separate. Let those people be on their own and we be on our own. So we initiated the separation, and I think it worked. It was very hard. There were many months when they would never support their pastor, but we carried on. We carried on. And there were moments, there were many people that we ministered to. Every so often I go through the old stubs of our baptism books, and I see people we baptized who came left. Others are still around, but they chose other options. But we reached many, many individuals. Yes. So that's how I began to see God at work. I should also be able to say that it was not until after maybe 10 years along the way from the 96 to about mid-2000s, 2004, 2005. Then I began to see a church. I began to see a core group that was committed. Now, we didn't just do that. We also inherited a building that was incomplete, that needed to be constructed. So from the beginning, it was our responsibility to build, which people were not willing to come, and then suddenly they find you are in construction. So they didn't. It took a long time for the people to believe this is our responsibility. And now that building is complete. We still have things to do to it, like any other building, but it's habitable, and ministry is being carried out in a very good way. So that's what I can be able to say took me to international. So there has been that consistency in pouring our lives into it. Where we had several Bible studies, and I was at a Bible study almost every night in different locations. So it really took a lot of work and commitment to get the work going, and God was faithful. God was faithful.
What would you say? What would you say in the 33 years has been your biggest challenge in ministry? I know there are many, but there's always that one that comes to mind and say, that was one time.
You cannot help but look at what God is doing in other places. And then you wonder, why is it not happening to me? I'm doing as much and as well as I should be, but it is not happening. So that is a big challenge. So you learn quickly not to look at other people's lands and ministries and the ponds they have. You have a responsibility here. And when you look at that, then you can see God has done remarkably more than you ever thought or expected within the group that He has given you. And when I come back to Blackaby, he talks about God adding people to a congregation intentionally. So I believe that the people that God has added to our congregation, it has been intentional. And I have been very pleased, and I have been very grateful to the Lord for what He has done. So in a way, when you begin to, you cannot help but begin to look and focus at what is happening around you. That is a big challenge. That's a big challenge initially. It is also a big challenge when your leaders keep rolling out. They have to leave. As international was, initially, it was meant to reach out to those who were coming into Lusaka as expatriates, and also to the middle class Zambians. That was the initial, but we began to extend ourselves, because we realized these expatriates come and go. They don't stay for a long time. And there was a time when Zambia, the economy and everything, most expatriates were leaving, both in Africa and even abroad. Most of them left. Then we had the middle class were also leaving, others Botswana, others South Africa.
They went to work outside.
They went to work outside. So the membership was depleting, So that was also a big challenge. Big challenge.
But in all that, we could say confidently that God knew what He was about.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.